You are tapped in with Caden. So Tsyzu made the same mistake as Anthony Joshua. So I noticed that both fighters made similar mistakes. They both got hurt, were dropped multiple times, and each time they got up, they went back into the fire and immediately tried to exchange or try to turn the tide by landing a hard punch. Now, it takes a lot. It takes extreme confidence in your punching power and your ability to think that you're just going to hit your opponent who drops you, hurt them, and then turn the tide. It's possible, but there are better ways of going about it and handling the situation when you're hurt. And you used to see fighters do this back in the days. Even fighters who had tremendous punching power, they didn't just get up and run back in there and try to get it back immediately. They made sure that they gave themselves time to recover before they try to get it back. And this is the key. This is what I noticed basically. And the piece of advice that I would give to Tsyzu and Anthony Joshua is a warrior needs to know when to recover. Now, of course, you're a warrior. You want to go out there, you want to fight. But sometimes if you're wounded, it can be to your detriment. So you got to give yourself time to recover. With Tsyzu, he got dropped 3 times in the second round. And if he could have minimized the damage, if he could have just reduced it to being dropped 2 times, let's say in that fight, because he ended up being dropped a total of 4 times, 3 in the second round and 1 time in the third round. Let's say he had 4 times he could get dropped and get back up, right? He got back up after the fourth and then they threw in a towel. But again, that was to save him from himself because once again, he wasn't showing any caution. He was going to go out on his shield, and you can respect that. But let's just say he would have shown that he was more alert and aware of the need to recover, the need to survive, the need to avoid the onslaught. I think the fight would have went on longer, and he could have at least reduced the damage that he took. So when we talk about fighting and when you're hurt, one of the things that the fighters used to do back in the days when they were hurt is hold. Now I know holding has a bad rap and people complain about holding. But there's one thing you got to understand. When it's survival mode, it's survival mode. People want to see you get knocked out and you don't want to get knocked out. So you hold. And if it's within range, if you can do it safely without compromising yourself, you should hold. The fighters always did that. When I was growing up, I used to hate it, especially when I was rooting for a fighter, rooting for someone like Mike Tyson, rooting for Lennox Lewis, rooting for Felix Trinidad. When they were going for the kill and the fighter would hold, I used to get mad because it prolonged what I wanted to see. It delayed the inevitable. And sometimes their opponent was successful in preventing the knockout. So I used to hate when I would see a fighter hold. Even when I played Fight Night, I used to play Fight Night with my boy Vaughn, and every time I would hurt him, somehow he was like a professional at holding, at getting the clinch. And he would always say, "Let me love you real quick." And I would be like, pause. But again, like holding, that is something that you should consider. Like, and not just holding in terms of, but if you can just grab the right hand, if you can just hook the right hand and hold it, grip it, like kind of how Floyd Mayweather did with Shane Mosley's right hand. If you could do that, then you can delay. Another tactic that you would see back in the days is spitting out the mouthpiece, right? You get knocked down, you get hurt. To get more time, you spit out the mouthpiece. Or in the middle of exchange or whatever, you would spit out the mouthpiece. Now, you got to be careful with this because you don't want to do it how James DeGale did it and then get teeth knocked out. I remember seeing that fight. And shout out to James DeGale. He was a serious warrior. He kept fighting. But I remember seeing like his teeth getting knocked out. And I'm like, man, I love boxing, but hell to the no, I wouldn't have done it like that. But you can spit out the mouthpiece strategically to get more time. So you can hold strategically, hold the arm, do certain things. You could spit out the mouthpiece. Another tactic that you can do is in the heat of the moment when there's a combination or punches are being thrown, you can land a low blow, a serious low blow that your opponent's going to react to. The referee's going to either send you to a neutral corner, take away a point, or give you a stern warning. But the reason why the point deduction doesn't matter is if you go down, you're going to get a point deduction anyway. So you might as well negate the damage of being knocked down by landing a low blow. And if the ref DQs you, you're probably going to get stopped anyway. So this was a strategy that used to be used back in the day. I think of Felix Trinidad versus Fernando Vargas. Now, the fight started with Tito Trinidad dropping Fernando Vargas multiple times, hurting Fernando Vargas. And then at one point, Fernando Vargas started to come on, and he hurt Felix Trinidad. And immediately after he hurt Felix Trinidad hit him with a low blow to get extra time, because that's a veteran move, right? Another thing that Tsyzu could have did, that Anthony Joshua could have did, that would have helped them, is you can take a knee. Like, once you're in the heat of the moment and you know for a fact that you're cornered, you're trapped, the punches are flying, and you know that if you get hit again, the odds are it's going to hurt your recovery. It's going to set your recovery back. You can take a knee. If you think of Montel Griffin versus Roy Jones, he did that. He took a knee. Roy hit him when he was down, and then Roy ended up getting DQ'd. Because people get mad because Roy knew he was in pursuit of Montel Griffin. He got to Montel Griffin. He knew he was about to land some devastating. So did Montel Griffin. Montel Griffin took a knee, and Roy was mad, and he still threw the punch. So again, these are some strategies you can use to help extend your recovery, because when you're buzzed, like Anthony Joshua was, like Tsyzu was, and they went down, all time is your best friend. Time to recover. And every time you take another hard blow, it sets your recovery back. So that's why you need to delay taking the hard punch. And that's what I feel like these fighters don't understand. And I don't know if these fighters even prepare for being in a situation where they're going to be hurt, because they're so powerful, they're so strong. I think they always just focus on what to do or how to finish their opponent. But what do you do when your opponent shoots you? You could take a knee. You can take a knee. You don't have to stand there and exchange, especially if you feel like you're about to recover. So think of Tsyzu in that first round when he was knocked down, the first time. If he would have taken a knee the second time and could have somehow held or threw a low blow, he would have avoided punches dropping him 2 more times. So by the time he comes out for that third round, hopefully he would have been more recovered than he was. So another thing you could do at that moment is you could throw a Hail Mary counter, is what I call it. And it's basically the counter that Anthony Joshua landed against Daniel Dubois in the 5th, where he landed that right hand. He set Daniel Dubois back. At that point, all AJ should have done was ride out the round. He should have tried to get out the 5th. He should have just looked like, stay behind the jab, get out the 5th, recover some more, and then in the 6th, try to build on what he did. But instead, he went for the kill. He got greedy. And that's the thing. You want to land the Hail Mary counter when you're hurt, and if you land it, you want to use it now to recover. Because once you land the Hail Mary counter, what you let your opponent know is, okay, he's still fighting back. He's not completely finished. So they're going to be alert, and they're going to fall back and say, okay, I got to wait now because this guy isn't fully done. But instead, AJ now went from getting battered to being knocked down, land the Hail Mary counter, to now trying to go for the knockout, and then he got knocked out. And in Tsyzu's case, every time he got up, he kept trying to get it back. He kept trying to land a hard punch. He kept trying to turn the tide with his own power instead of giving himself a chance to recover. So they both made the same mistake in which they didn't give themselves the opportunity to recover, because that's more important than trying to get it back immediately. Once you recover, you can go and you could try to see what you can do. But they both got hurt early and never gave themselves the full opportunity to recover because they kept trying to fight and turn the tide with their power. You can't rely on your power too much. So I would say this about Tsyzu. Tsyzu is a warrior for real, because in his fight with Sebastian Fundora, he had that cut on his head. If I was Tsyzu, I would have tried to go into the scorecards, but he fought the entire fight with blood rushing from his head, and he didn't get the decision. I don't remember how I scored that fight on my scorecards, but I just remember thinking to myself, the way the fight was going, because he had hurt Sebastian Fundora early, and then the headbutt and the blood gushing into his face changed the tide of the fight. I just remember thinking to myself, if that headbutt and that gash didn't happen, Tsyzu wins this fight. And then you see his fight with Bakaram, and he gets hurt early, and he keeps getting up and he keeps fighting. Warrior mentality. You can't take it away from him. You love to see it, but at the same time, sometimes that mentality can cause you unnecessary damage. Think of the Sebastian Fundora fight. If Tszyu would have just said, I can't see, I can't continue because of that headbutt, it wouldn't have been a L for Tszyu, because the gash was caused by a headbutt and not a punch, and they would have gone to the scorecards. He ended up taking the L anyway, so he would have taken less damage. The cut wouldn't have been as bad, and he would have went to the scorecards. And I don't remember how I had it scored, but I know he hurt Fundora early, and I know he had a chance of winning if they went to the scorecards. So that L would have been a dub, and he wouldn't have taken as much damage as he did. And who knows if that damage he took in that Sebastian Fundora fight played a role in his fight with Bakaram Murtazalev. So all I'm saying is sometimes you can be too much of a warrior for your own good, and a warrior needs to know when to recover. And Tszyu, in this case, he's been nothing but a warrior against Sebastian Fundora and against Murtazalev. And now we see where he's at. He's in two very rough, tough fights where he's taken a lot of damage. And now that may impact his career moving forward. He may never recover for those two fights. And that's the problem. So again, for all you upcoming fighters out there who may be listening, if you're ever hurt, I'll just run through the list of things you can try to do. One is hold. If it's safe to do so, but not just a clinch. If you can grab the hand, like if the fighter has an amazing left hook, if you can just get that left hand and hold it, I mean, smother it. Don't let it go. Put the chokehold on that left arm. Do it. Spit out the mouthpiece strategically now. You don't want to do it where you're going to lose teeth like James DeGale, and you don't want to make it extremely obvious. But again, you'll get more time. A well-executed low blow will give you extra time. Okay? And remember, you're going to lose a point if you get knocked down anyway. So even if you lose a point, cool. If you get DQ'd for the low blow, you were going to get stopped anyway. Take a knee. Sometimes it's worth it to take the knee instead of the devastating punch. And what happens when you take the knee is you're going to have to reset. And when you reset, that gives you the opportunity to try to hold or to try to take another route, to try to move out the way to avoid getting hit with a big shot. And lastly, the Hail Mary counter, which is successful. A lot of people land the Hail Mary counter sometimes. And when you land the Hail Mary counter and you hurt your opponent, some people will jump on them immediately, and you can. It worked for Diego Corrales. Certainly it worked for Andy Ruiz against Anthony Joshua, but it doesn't always work. Look at Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois. So, again, when you land the Hail Mary counter, you should try to recover and then see how you do the next round. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think about that advice. Do you see it differently? Let me know. Hit the subscribe button if you can. Like the video, share the video. It's Caden. I'm out. Peace.